At a very high level, what we focus on is what's called the viewing moment. So it's basically the idea that the content that I'm watching is actually really important to targeting, and to understand the data around that's very important. So the tradition in video advertising is around how to identify an audience, or how to identify a demographic. I want to target Kevin. I want to find out how old he is. I want to find out, how much money he makes. Then I want to target ads based on that. And what we say is, well, that stuff's important, but also almost as important, or if not more important, is the fact that I've decided to watch one video or another. And so what Veenome is about is sort of identifying all the attributes of the content, what it's about, how big the players are, how many players on the page, etc., and trying to help advertisers and ad networks and agencies help them take advantage of that data, and help them do things like contextual targeting and make sure that things are brand safe, and different kinds of auditing for exchanges. So across the board kind of content indexing for the video advertising industry. There's sort of two pieces of the technology. One I'll call like the video ingestion piece, which is we can get given any impression. Could be CNN, could be Hulu, could be YouTube, could be whatever. And we have to be able to make sense of that page, figure out where all the videos are, and then actually extract imagery and videos. And then, so that's one piece, which is how do you take sort of infinite randomness and make sense of it based on imagery and sound. And then the other piece is, okay, now how do I take those images and figure out what's inside those images, and figure out what's going on in the audio, and then make sense of all that data. And that, doing those two things allows us to provide lots of data on the actual videos themselves, and then we can deliver that data to our customers. So it's sort of a two-pronged approach, neither of which are terribly simple, but we figured out a way to do them at scale, so it works for larger customers now. One new thing that we've seen a lot of recently, and that we released a product which basically identifies inventory type. There was a lot of energy around identifying viewable impressions last year, and I think there's been a lot of consensus on what makes a viewable impression. What we've seen more and more recently are a mixing of what we call inventory type. So in banner, which is a pre-roll ad running just on its own. So in an ad unit with nothing after it, so no content after the pre-roll ad. Then the other option is in stream, so a pre-roll ad running before an actual video, or the traditional model you think of when you think of pre-roll. And then in game, which is a pre-roll ad running before a game. And what's happening now is those are getting, because there's still a shortage of inventory out there, that there's less content than there are buyers or people interested in ad space. And so those things are getting kind of slushed together. And it doesn't necessarily mean that in banner is a bad thing. It just means that it's not really being identified, and it's kind of being mixed in with all sorts of other inventory. And we've seen a lot of that where we said, hey, here's the report in the campaign, and half of it was in banner, and everyone always sort of goes, what? And so that's a big thing this year, which is trying to identify those things kind of in their natural environment, and then helping people figure out what the value is, right? Like, are the eyeball values different for just a pre-roll ad running in an ad unit versus having to wait to watch a pre-roll ad for actual video content? The answer is yes, it probably is different, right? Because you can ignore the pre-roll ad running on its own a little bit more. For things like in game, it's hard to say what the value is, but the point is that these things aren't being identified right now, and that's kind of what we're working on. So that's sort of the thing that I would say maybe to watch out for. On the sort of more forward side, we're launching a new product which is called the Viewing Behavior Index. So basically, in a nutshell, what it is right now we index videos, and we index lots of videos across tens of thousands of sites. And what we are doing with the Viewing Behavior Index is saying, okay, we've got this very unique, very broad, wide coverage content index. So we're going to now work with some partners and track users as they view those videos. And so we're establishing the behavior of individual viewers and storing that information anonymously based on mobile IDs or cookies. And what this allows us to do is A, sell that data in like a DMP, to package it with other demographic data. So we can say, women age 18 to 35 who like watching technology videos. And it also just allows us to do a lot more things with things like content recommendations, etc. So it's packaging sort of our existing data set, but packaging it in the currency of the user, which just expands our ability to sell into different markets.